Episode 2 of Kokkoku is out, and this is easily one of the best series of Winter of Anime 2018 that I have seen. I'm on episode 2 now, thankfully, since it just came out, and man, oh man. This is a fun and engaging series. The story is gripping, the characters are fascinating, and very different from the normal main characters of a story, and the world building, it's got my attention. I want to know more about what's really going on. So, before I begin talking about episode 2, if you've yet to see my first impressions, or if this is your first time seeing me talk about Kokkoku, I do recommend you giving the first episode a shot. It's very different from everything else from the season I have personally seen, and it's definitely different from the normal anime we get every season. So, if you want to watch something different, give it a shot. You might like it. But anyways, with that being said though, episode 2 of Kokkoku, the world building. That is the big focus of this episode, explaining kind of how this world works, the world of stasis and all of that. So, apparently, the herald, or the handler, whatever name you want to throw or attach to the creature, this Lovecraftian horror that popped up, that creature only appears if someone that is stalled is threatened, from what we know of. So this makes perfect sense now, because it goes along with what was showcased in the last episode. For instance, when our main female character, Judy, when she was going to do something really bad to one of the thugs that, kidnapped, her nephew and, her brother, we saw that figure pop up behind her, like right above her and all that, which indicates, even if you have ill intentions, like you just intend to put harm to someone, even maybe not kill them, but just harm them, the herald/handler will pop up. So, you don't even need to do it. You just need to think it, and something like that happens. So, that is a very interesting tidbit that was attached to this world now, and lets us know the limitations of what certain characters can get away with, and what they cannot. In this case, everyone that is stalled, everyone that is basically stuck in Zawaldo and all that, they are safe. The herald, the handler, comes in. If anyone tries to fool with them and do bad things to them, the herald will come in and knock them out and kill the person. That's what will happen. However, there is something that I believe the herald is not capable of understanding. And this could, in fact, be a way to work around the limitation of that rule of ill intent. Let me explain. Number one, the CPR section. When the uncle, Tsubasa, I think that's his name, when he was trying to perform CPR on the boy, the herald/handler didn't pop up. Now, many would be saying, obviously in the comments, are like, Chibi, he wasn't trying to hurt him in any way. He was trying to save him. I understand that. However, CPR does, in fact, cause harm in a way. The way you compress the chest in. So, if those rules about trying to cause harm to the stalled are correct, that would mean that the performing CPR would have called the herald in to stop him. But it did not happen. So, like I said, it's obviously attached to ill intent. For instance, people that are intending to do harm, people that are not wanting to do harm, they are safe from those rules. Even if they probably accidentally kill someone, they are safe from the herald because their intent was not to do harm, but in fact to save someone, or maybe accidentally they did something. It's like this, okay? What we saw in the last episode backs up what I'm talking about. Let's talk about what we saw in episode 2 and in the first episode. We saw a dude that was stalled, one of the thugs, in the room where, the boy was, kidnapped and also the brother. Basically, we see where one of the thugs is pushed through, like, the doorway, the glass door and all that. We see how he's pushed in, he's, like, frozen kind of in time and all that. You see the glass around his face. It was a couple of times even in episode 2. Now, think about this real quick, okay? That damage alone, what happened to the man, that's technically bodily harm. The herald should have been called in that moment to stop that. But the herald didn't necessarily appear. Why is that? Well, if we look at the scene, why all that happened was because there was a struggle. There was a struggle because the people that can actually move through the stasis and all that, there was a struggle, and the dude got pushed into the glass door, if I remember that correctly. So that would mean that if you accidentally harm someone, but you were not aware of it, or your intentions were not to do that, then the herald will not come and try to do anything to you. That's what I'm assuming, because of the glass door dude, and also now seeing the CPR section with the boy. That's my assumption. So that would necessarily mean if someone believes, or if they're morally messed up in the head, like they have no empathy, or they don't have any bad thoughts, like they're just crazy, then that would mean that they could possibly negate the herald/handler. That's what I'm assuming. So, like, okay, serial killer. Let's take that for a second, okay? Serial killer thinks, you know, what they're doing, they're doing justice, they're doing goodwill, they're doing, you know, good things, okay? They're not doing anything bad. Could that possibly mean if someone like that could work around the herald/the handler and get around their rules because of how he thinks? That's what I'm assuming. That's what's being implied from these 2 episodes. Anyways, dropping that subject right then and there, let's talk about the other little pieces of world building. We also need to talk about how new people can be brought into this world and leave stasis, or, you know, leave the stalled. So, apparently if someone dies, or at least someone that can move around in this world dies, then the little jellyfish-like soul creature comes out and enters someone else nearby. In this case, it entered Tsubasa, the brother of the main female character, Journey. And that would mean, in essence, that that's where everybody originated from. The reason why all of them have the ability to, you know, enter the stasis and move around is because someone else died, and then the jellyfish went over into them. And we saw this example in the first episode as well. So this makes a lot more sense now how this is done. And so it makes me really wonder if, like, let's say the grandpa was to die, would the jellyfish inside of him that's been in him for a very long time, well, that gives him the ability to, you know, teleport, would that possibly give the ability to teleport to someone else as well? For instance, let's say that jellyfish went into the little boy, Makoto, I think that's his name. If it went into him, that would mean that he might have the ability to teleport around, but the grandpa would die for exchange. You get my point. Something like that seems to be the case here. Anyways, I do like that. I do like how that was showcased, that little detail and all that. And I do like also the aspect of how the world is represented. It's like a single cut. It's a single frame in a big long video clip. It's kind of like when I'm editing videos and I'm like clicking frame by frame and all that, trying to figure out like what I want to remove from a video, cut out or add in or whatever, and I'm going by frame probably to get a perfect picture for a video. Well, that right there is in essence what's being talked about. For instance, when the stasis world pops up, the entirety of the world freezes and you have just a teeny little frame clip in the video, and it's right there. It's kind of like a separate parallel dimension, kind of. It's kind of like you remove a little clip from the timeline, and you pull it out a little bit, and it's separated for the time being, and that's just the plane of existence you're on. Instead of the world just going on a straight line like this, you go upward. Like you just go straight up, and you move it from that line just temporarily because you're in a stasis world. But then when you go back, it'll be resorted back in, and then the line will continue moving. And then you get started back up again and being a different film clip. That's basically what I'm trying to say here, and how the world is working. I find that really cool because it adds a little bit more depth to the world and the stasis and all that, and there's not many series like this when it comes to time stop and all that really does stuff like that, and I find that, personally to me, very cool. So, next thing to talk about, let's talk about the ability to teleport. So, I laughed. Okay, call me cruel, call me a messed up individual, but I laughed when the grandpa tried to teleport and he teleported on the slide and he slipped and hit his head. I'm sorry, I laughed. I know it's in a way kind of like slapstick comedy, kind of a cheap choice of comedy and all that, but it's just, it's funny. I couldn't help but laugh when the man tried. He's like, I can fly up there. As soon as he flies, he slips on the, you know, the slide, hits. I'm like, oh, it was good. It was just, usually comedy like that, it's not properly placed, especially in a series like this. But that was a really good usage of comedy. I will give props to the writer for that. That was a good way to have some comedy, but keep this serious atmosphere of what was going on. Speaking of serious atmosphere and all that, let's get back to Tsubasa. So Tsubasa, or actually what was explained, if they leave the clip and all that, they would necessarily have to leave someone behind. Like, okay, if Tsubasa gets left and they all go back to the regular world, apparently he's still in the world of stasis, but everybody else is continuing to move forward. So, in a way, that would mean that he'd be on his own timeline. That's what I'm assuming. So, it seems like the series is trying to imply that there's parallel dimensions or different timelines. Because if they were to undo stasis, get back on the timeline and go straight, that little timeline point that's kind of pulled out will still be there if other people are still frozen in that part and moving around. So, if Tsubasa's left, he will no longer exist in the timeline at all. So I wonder if that's what's being implied, that there's different realities and stuff. Who knows? But overall, I think that the newest episode, episode 2 of Kokkoku, is pretty enjoyable. It's a really fun series. It has some really good stuff overall with it. I like, Juri. I like the old man. Speaking of the old man, I do believe he's gonna die. I assume he's gonna die. I've seen enough anime, read enough manga to know when it comes to mentor, like, old men type characters that are teaching people, usually they end up dead. That's just how it goes in these type of series, especially a serious series that's a seinen or whatever, something like that. It's bound to happen. It's to be expected. So I don't see the old man necessarily living to episode 5. I see, knowing how anime likes to do things, episode 3 or 4, he probably is going to die. Maybe 5, depending on where they want to put it. But I don't see the old man possibly living. I just don't. Because I've seen enough anime to know where it's going. Because he's going to die, his soul's probably going to remove and leave him, and it's probably going to go into the boy. Or maybe Juri's going to get it somehow, and she's going to gain the ability to teleport. One or the other. Something like that is bound to happen. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, how you felt about this week's episode. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Please be honest. Are you going to continue watching it? And if you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And stay warm, stay safe. Love you guys. Please be safe. Chibi out.